Hello, all, and welcome. Our podcast series over the next several weeks is with Susan Minaya, COO and Chief Learning Strategist and Executive Coach, talking about 5 things training wants the business to know. Now, last week, she talked with us about the first thing, training is a profession. And now this week, Susan talks with us about the second thing, training is a strategic partner. Stay tuned to learn more. Hello, Susan. Welcome back.
Hey, Dario, how's it going?
Good. I'm excited to hear about the second thing training wants the business to know. So I gave a little teaser in the intro. So what is that?
Well, yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. So, the second thing is that training is a strategic partner.
Mm,
Yeah, very much so. And the reason training wants the business to know this is because of the experience that they often have in their organizations where strategy is handed to them rather than them being invited to the strategy discussions in the organization at the onset of the annual strategic planning.
okay. So what impact does that have for the organization then?
That is a great question and exactly my point here. Training knows a lot about the employee population, right? They're always training people, so they understand about their needs developmentally, their preferences for how they like to learn, the array of methods that are going to be the most effective for them to support the strategy. Because they do training all the time and they're pulling in all those data metrics that they have,
Hmm.
right? And when it requires upskilling, reskilling of employees or supporting a change or in a strategic focus or other things that they're doing, they have the data and they work with all the different areas of the organization and know a lot about how their employees are, the way they like to learn, the best approach to be able to do it. So as you think about the strategy, that knowledge is really valuable, right?
Yeah.
So learning professionals have very specific data. And I think, as I mentioned, at the employee level, the department level, and in the organization, because of the evaluations and metrics that they use to show the effectiveness of their learning and development. So they are the professionals.
Mm,
Go back to the first thing we talked about,
mm.
who understand about talent enablement. And that's a really important word
Yeah, that
because
sounds like it.
talent enablement is the underpinning of really strategic success. Getting people to do the things that help achieve the organization's strategic goals, because those strategic goals don't get done without people, right?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes perfect sense. And as learning professionals ourselves, I mean, we know and advocate the
Hmm.
value of this data. How else can they be a strategic partner?
Strategy development is the roadmap to business success in organizations. And also, we know that strategy comes from the top. So, the problem with that is training is not typically at the strategy sessions initially. The person who's at the table most often is the CHRO, the Chief HR Officer,
Mm,
who's representing training. But the interesting thing is, very seldom is a CHRO a training professional. They oversee training, and this is a very different thing,
mm.
right? So, HR and training and development are super interdependent on one another for success. One without the other is a deficiency. There's a weak link in the strategy and in the planning when those two roles are not brought in together.
Mm.
That's why, for me, the role of Chief Learning Officer is so important in the C suite. HR focuses on bringing talent into the organizations. The CLO is in charge of enablement of talent through training and development initiatives. And together, they support retention and culture. So these roles are, while they often get kind of just lumped together, they're really very unique skill sets. Without that critical lens and experience of the CLO, HR can get a little focused only on hiring and retaining talent.
Mm.
And without that deep understanding of talent enablement through training and development, it can result in really the worst nightmare for an HR department, which is talent churn.
Mm.
So a CHRO and CLO are really distinctly different, yet inextricably linked. Really, I like that word because they're like twins in a way, but different, right? To support and achieve the organization's strategic goals related to talent. They themselves are strategic partners.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because HR shouldn't be the only mouthpiece for workforce development at the onset of strategy development.
Mm.
The CLO, or at a minimum, the senior training leader should be there too. When the CLO or senior training leader aren't at the strategy table, it can and often does result in also, get a load of this, underfunded training departments to effectively support the strategy because nobody knows what they need to get it done financially better than the people that do the work, right?
Right. Well, I mean, now that you brought up budget, is that a different topic or
Oh, yeah, I think it's next week's topic,
okay?
actually.
We'll
But,
consider that for
but
next week.
for this week's topic, as a strategic partner, remember that no strategy gets done without funding. It's as simple as that. Somebody has to pay for what is needed and
Mm,
really to execute the strategy, whether that is through people, training, or customers, money's involved.
mm,
For CHROs and CLOs to be at the C suite strategic table together, can you imagine that type of strategic alliance sitting at the table for strategy development for the organization? It really ensures a more holistic approach to solving and achieving the organizational strategy, you know?
yeah.
So what I want to emphasize here without going too deep into the whole budget conversation is that really the organizational strategy emphasis is specific, yet it is broad, right? When we're doing it at the top leadership level, it's broad. The other areas of the business are the ones who are really tasked with, supporting through detailed plans to help achieve that goal. And think HR, training, development, sales, everybody has to do their own plans to be able to support the organizational strategy. So training needs to create a learning strategy, right? We've talked
Mm-hmm.
about learning strategy in other podcasts that we've had
Yeah, we
to
have.
support the corporate strategy. And this learning strategy is touching on every other aspect of the organization and their strategies because people are involved. And guess what? Training supports everyone in the organization, right? So nobody knows those different areas better and is more of a strategic partner for them than the learning and development leader, right? The
Mm-hmm.
CLO, the training department, because they work with all those different areas. So that is why they're strategic partners at the top of the house, and they're also strategic partners division by division of the organization. So being at the head of strategy development benefits not just the training and development group, really it benefits all areas of the organization because, really they can collectively get what they need in the way of funding through their collective strategic alignments, right? So as sales wants to do a great new initiative for their people for a new maybe a customer relationship management system that's coming into the organization. Wow, they're going to need training to help support that. But how much does that cost? What do we need to do? We want to get this system in and we need to train the people. So together we can create a holistic strategy to be able to help support that for the broader organizational goal of getting more customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
You can see the pipeline there.
Yeah, I can see the pipeline. Well, Susan, as the chief learning strategist for Manila Learning Global Solutions, you know what you speak, right? I've personally seen your work with other organizations to move to being a strategic partner through learning strategy development. And it makes a huge difference in training effectiveness, efficiency for everyone in the organization. Uh, I mean, as an executive coach for learning leaders, this is something you also focus on with them as well, right?
Yeah, definitely so. I think this is a very hot development topic for learning leaders, really wanting to have more of an impact on the organization. So, this is one of the areas where I really do focus with my coaching clients a lot as far as building organizational relationships and alliances, because this is how you create that credibility and be recognized as that strategic partner, really focusing with them on the strategic planning in general as a process and how does that look when you're creating those plans and how do you get yourself a seat at that table to be able to be involved in that process as a leading player rather than a lagging player. And a lot of that revolves also around communicating for impact and influence because that's part of the the learning leaders capabilities that really need to be developed. And I think these three areas specifically are really strong for helping learning leaders get to be more effective at their impact and involvement at that level in the organization.
Now, is there anything more you'd like to say on the topic?
Only that organizations should consider how they're leveraging learning executives in their organization as a strategic partner. Are they leading players in your strategy development or are they lagging players? For myself, I'd highly recommend them being leading players at the onset of organizational strategy development because it's going to make a world of difference in the outcomes.
All right. Well, thank you, Susan. That
Oh,
was,
thank you.
yeah, it was great insight into training as a strategic partner. Next time we'll be talking about, you guessed it, the third thing training wants the business to know. Until next time.
See you then.